Hello. We
are
The Regulars.
This
is our
Podcast.
welcome.
Hey everybody, we're gonna go and explore the topic of group dynamics within gaming. This is going to include everything from gamers as a group, game developers and how they are influencing the formation and dynamics of gamers as a group, as well as the rest of the world reacting and accounting for the formation of gaming as a space and as a third place for people to meet online. So with that, we're going to start off with some of the problems in gaming, and here I have James, and he's going to give us a good speech on the problems in gaming.
So a lot of my research that I had done for our group case study was about toxicity within the gaming place, and how it's affecting everyone, not just the player, but the game itself. And there are people literally avoiding these games just so that they don't have any interactions that they don't like. I'll start off first with this study done by Dr. K, full name Dr. Alok Kanoja, a hard name to pronounce, sorry about that. But he had conducted a research and had basically found out that a lot of our suppressed emotions come from something called alexithymia, or otherwise known as emotional blindness. It's a personality trait characterized by significant difficulty in identifying, processing, or describing and understanding one's own emotions. He believes that not every gamer, but a lot of gamers do deal with this sort of condition, and because of it, we're not as sensitive as we would be when talking to someone online. That's why there's a lot of unfiltered, just overall hate, jargon, all that stuff. Video games are designed to be an immersive escape from a fun competitive experience. However, for many players, anyone, but particularly women and those of the LGBTQ plus community, they deal with logging online means that they're bracing for targeted harassment. While gaming culture often defends trash talk as something of, this is just friendly banter, this is competitive, as a natural part of the competition. There's a distinct and dangerous line between competitive trash talk and outright bigotry. I wanted my research to explore, normalized toxicity in video games goes beyond beyond the screen, disproportionately impacting marginalized groups, spilling over into the streaming community even, and requiring immediate action from both gamers and their developers. Some key talking points that I want to go over right now is the trash talk versus harassment argument. Not even argument, sorry, it's like a genuine fact. Defenders of toxic behavior often brush it off as typical gaming banter, as I've said before, but I want to establish that criticizing someone's gameplay is completely different from attacking their identity, such as their race, gender, or sexual orientation. A key quote I found from an article off of the Sundial, which is a newsletter from the UCSD, or a UCSD newsletter, sorry about that, was that while admittedly trash talk is a part of the gaming experience, there's a fine line between occasional banter and literal harassment. Criticizing someone based off their ability to play a game is one thing, but using sexism or homophobia to draw conclusions to one's ability is a whole nother. And so first off, you guys, any thoughts on that in general? Any related experiences, something of the such?
Well, I'm not a woman and I'm not part of the LGBTQ community, but I have experienced a lot of trash talk, especially when it comes to PvP which is player versus player games. Anything that happens, you win or you lose, and the other person will just start going at it. They were like, no, how did you win that, or you suck, or you got lucky, and then that's trash talk. But then some people will go honestly dox you. It has been done, and that's just
and I just wanted to bring up a couple statistics actually. So this is from a survey taken on the ADL, which is the Anti-Defamation League. It is found that 65% of all gamers experience severe harassment, and 73% of the LGBTQ plus gamers experience harassment based on their sexual orientation. 41% of queer gamers avoid certain games entirely out of fear, and 35% lie about their identity online. It's insane. And a quote, again, I found from the same article, not using voice chat to communicate with your team due to fear of being bullied because of your gender, sexuality, or even the way your voice sounds, it shouldn't even be an issue. And, I completely agree with that. I remember when I was a kid, I had a high-pitched voice, and I was made fun of for it. Unfortunate reality. And, from that, I want to talk about how this isn't just individuals' problem that they're dealing with. This even spills into the streaming world, which I'm not sure if you guys watch Twitch, YouTube, or anything like that. But a lot of the culture of harassment isn't contained into private lobbies, It extends into public figures and content creators, creating a cycle that normalizes bigotry for audiences. An example of this, we have, I feel like I hear it all the time, but Pokimane, she's dealt with a lot of drama for, a lot of sexism, people calling her, slurs, the fact that she is a woman and, they're sexualizing her. It really sucks. While we're on the topic of streamers, we can see these dynamics play out in real time through the recent Kingsman controversy. I don't know if y'all have heard of it, but
Rivals.
yeah. Of course. So this was a recent controversy in Marvel Rivals community. The incident started as a strategic disagreement during a $40,000 tournament, but it quickly spiraled into a targeted verbal abuse and an unjust disqualification, proving that toxicity isn't just mean words, it has a tangible professional and financial consequences. So as I go over the Kingsman controversy, we're going to talk about, the weaponization of, tone and vibe. Toxicity is often subjective. In this case, the player, Kingsman, was pushing for, a meta strategy during this tournament, and he wanted to win life-changing prize money for him. And his teammates labeled this competitive spirit as, making the team uncomfortable. The impact of this is that it highlights a common issue where he's marginalized or outsider players are tone policed. Instead of addressing gameplay issues like a teammate underperforming, the group turned to personal insults, calling him a loser and telling him to shut up, which is definitely not the way to go about it. Another issue is that there's an administrative bias during this tournament, or otherwise known as gatekeeping. The tournament organizer himself kicked Kingsman based on one-sided clips and the influence of other more popular streamers, rather than an objective view of the entire situation. In Kingsman's video that he had made about the situation, there are literally clips showing, him getting kicked because, of something the other streamers had said without him getting any say in it at all. The cost of this is that for many, gaming is a career, to pay for education. Kingsman explicitly stated that he needed prize money for college tuition. So, when a player is harassed out of a space or he's unfairly banned like Kingsman here, it's not just his feelings at stake, it's their entire livelihood. Toxicity in this context acts as a barrier to economic mobility for smaller creators such as Kingsman. And, now I want to talk about how this was even brought up in the first place, the accountability here. The only reason the situation saw any resolution at all was because the victim had a recording of the VOD to prove his side, which led to a massive public outcry and eventually apologies from the organizers. The impact from this is that it shouldn't require a viral video and millions of views to receive fair treatment. This point emphasizes that current reporting and moderation systems are often broken, leaving players to rely on, that viral view or, a second audience to help correct their side and get justice. That's basically my examples of why toxicity is a problem.
Can I comment on this?
Of course you can, yeah.
I think I've got something. So, toxicity in video games is a really, really, dense, it's a hairy topic. Right. You definitely see it more in those competitive style video games where the stakes are higher, and I tend to believe, because I'm a gamer too, right? I don't think that toxicity is people's true nature, but it's a reflection, certainly, of how bad behaviors can come up in a group setting. Gaming can be healthy if it's done right, but if some people who don't have the opportunity to maybe succeed in real life, they might take the opportunity to put down other people in a setting where they have the power to do so.
And so, off the same thing, that what you said about people not finding success in their life and them taking it out on others, that you said that in an online context, but that could literally be the thing. Like, that's what bullying is made from, you know? You're doing bad at home, or something's going on at home, so you go to school and then you bully some other kids and make them think that they're inferior to you, so you feel good about yourself. And I think it's the same thing that's happening online.
Sad reality.
Adding on to what these two said, yeah, toxicity is a big problem, and it does have a lot to do with bullying and the insecurity of others, and it also adds to my point, which I'm going to get to in a minute, which is how gaming is a third space, and it's an escape from reality, because most gamers' lives in real life are unfulfilled and pretty just not really ideal. So they might take those emotions out on others, and because it's online, it's of little consequence.
All right, that was a pretty good, deep dive into toxicity. Let's go ahead and take a step back away from gamers and look at the industry that is actually giving rise to these gamers. The video game industry has actually had problems with, believe it or not, groupthink. And Ali's going to go ahead and tell us all about what's going on in the video game industry.
Hey everyone, so I want to start off by asking you guys what your favorite game franchise is. Will?
My favorite game franchise, I'm old school. I like RuneScape.
RuneScape? That's good. What about you, James?
Yeah, I'm not as old school, but still early 2000s to 2010s. I'm the Batman Arkham series. Very fun.
Same here. I favor the Batman Arkham series, among other things.
Alright, so I had a few examples here, so I want you guys to think about Call of Duty, Final Fantasy, Assassin's Creed, and my favorite, which is the Uncharted series. But the thing about all these series is that the sequels are just getting worse and worse because the company, the corporation that's making them, is just getting more money hungry, right? That's all they care about. And the main reason for this is that most of these games within the same company, or even outside different companies, they use the same game mechanics and gameplay, such as skill tree, the same blocking, attacking, parrying mechanisms. It just all results in a lack of innovation in modern games. Like companies have developed this copy-paste design that works, and they just use it in every game. Is this working?
Yeah.
So my quote, I found a quote from Game Developer, which is a very well-respected website among gamers. A lot of gamers rely on that for news, history, whatever they want. And it says that some companies are making games in spreadsheets. They look backwards to see what gamers have liked instead of looking ahead and taking risk. And this just shows that corporations are basically putting unnecessary pressure on a dev to make a game that will make the corporation money, and not instead of it being a passion project. Like, this results in the dev skipping over some details, or the graphics are not as good, or maybe they cancel a side mission from here and there just to save time and meet the deadline. And how this relates to group thinking is, imagine you're a game designer at a meeting with all the corporation, the big guys, and you want to say a idea, something you thought of, but you don't want to be the weird one out. You don't want to say, "Oh, let's do this," and then have it added to the schedule, and like, the release date just gets jumped by a few months because you wanted to add an idea. This is called the silencing effect. It's when individuals conform to majority opinions out of fear of isolation, out of fear of looking bad, looking weird, of people hating you. And what I want to say is that innovation doesn't just stop. It stops being offered. And once you stop offering innovations, ideas, the games just repeat one after another.
Yeah, so I would say that, the lack of innovation has been pretty astounding. And we can see this really the best because the most innovative game of the last 10 years, believe it or not, is Roblox. Roblox doesn't even really innovate because they don't even make their own game. They empower the players to innovate and create the games for themselves. And Roblox doesn't have any kind of problems with corporate culture, groupthink. They basically do away with all of these things by empowering the players to create their own games. AAA games rake in all the capital investment while providing none of the innovation. And I would say that their inability to solve these problems, to, implement a problem-solving agenda, is a big reason why the young people view corporations so unfavorably. They are completely ineffective at solving problems that would benefit people, like creating better games. They really need to get their stuff together.
I just wanted to piggyback off of what Will was saying about Roblox. So, yeah, I mean, the thing about Roblox is that everything is completely user-made, so it's actually the players creating the levels, the games, everything in it. And a lot of the time, what we see from Roblox is that these guys are doing it commission-free, basically. So they're making nothing for creating something completely unique and, to their own liking, which is steps above what these AAA companies are doing nowadays. So it's just insane that we can have more creativity from, this standalone person than we can a multi-million-dollar company.
Adding to what you guys have been saying, yes, I think everything has gone downhill as of late. And I think the best solution for these companies is to officially clean house, pretty much fire any developer that's not on the same page with the player or or the company, and replace them, with new talent. That pretty much respect the customer and have the talent and creativity, to deliver.
It's pretty much removed.
Thank you, Ali. I think that was really good deep dive into kind of the groupthink problem that corporate America has, especially as it pertains to gaming. Let's go ahead and take a step back and basically see, now we have the gamers, we have the game corporations, and now we have the rest of the world. We're going to go ahead and see how the rest of the world is taking this new digital third space, and with that, we have Josiah on the mic next.
Thank you. Yes, so on the topic of the gamer themselves, so most gamers are young men, are young, pretty much young to older men, from 18 to older. And most of them have jobs. Most of them, have families. They either live with their parents or or best case scenario, they have, a wife and children. But the worst case is they face, types of adversity, whether it be at their jobs or at their homes. And that can be tough. It can be tough. And gaming could be a useful outlet. useful outlet for them, a third space, if you will, because their first and second space is their, is their job and their home life. And when that gets tough, the virtual environment that these games offer can offer an escape from reality when it's grim. And specifically, with gaming, specifically with online gaming and communicating with other players online, that environment can offer, understanding, the type of understanding that they feel that they lack in real life, from their families or from their job. And it could be relieving, especially when you make friends that are, that you would never encounter in real life. Maybe they live in another country, or maybe they're from another city. Like in one way or another, you wouldn't encounter these people in your real life. But yet you do in the game, and it can be, and this person can offer you, some understanding, and can make you feel, comfortable, and can offer you like a great friendship that you've been deprived. And that's, I feel like that's more important. That's what makes gaming more important, and that's why it's more than just entertainment. It's more than just a hobby. It's just, it's an escape.
I mean, if that's the case, will speak.
Sure. Right. So, I love how you referred to gaming as a third space, because we've known throughout all of history that people need specific spaces to be able to express themselves and bring out the better parts of their personality. The founding fathers, when they first were drafting the Declaration of Independence, they had a motive where they wanted to separate church and state, because they were finding that the moral arguments that the church had were weaseling their way into the kind of planning that the legislators were doing for America's political future. And they wanted to go ahead and separate that. Now, why is that important? Is because for gaming to have a third space for people in their own personal lives, it gives them a place outside of work and family, maybe to talk about some of these issues that might be happening in some of those spaces. If you only have, your family and work to go ahead and field your life issues, you might never find a place where it's appropriate to express yourself. So that's why I think it's really important that we keep gaming as a third space, as a proper place for people to be able to congregate.
Thank you, Josiah and Will. I like how you mentioned that it's an escape from reality, because I want to say that I have a friend in Northern California that I have personally never met in person, yet this random person I met 5 years ago is like one of my best friends, and I truly use gaming as an escape after work, after school, after everything's done. I get on the game with my boy, and then we just have a fun night. And it just all your stress just goes away, and it's so nice to have that.
Yeah, I very much relate to that. Again, we've all said it, but gaming can be an escape, and the fact that it is that third space that you can come home to is really just good for your mental. It's good for you physically, even overall. I use gaming a lot as sort of an outlet, to express my emotions to my friends or anyone that might be. And I very much agree with what you've said. I believe it is a necessity, and it's an overall positive thing for us as people.
Thank you so much, Josiah, for that wonderful insight as to how, gaming plays a role in people's lives, kind of as like an escape from real life. Seems like people really need that nowadays, as the stress from work and family life seems to be becoming, more and more intense. So let's try and make it a little bit more positive. I'm going to go into my topic next, which is gaming as a uniting force for people across the world.
Ended on a high note.
Yeah, end it on a high note. That's what I'd like to do. So let's just jump right into it. For decades, the general sentiment about video games has been very negative. On the news, video games are branded as a signifier that someone is a failure, a loser, or a reject. Gaming is seen as pulling students away from their textbooks in order to rot their brains. No pun intended. No pun intended there. But while the news was busy demonizing these video games, a quiet revolution was taking place inside these virtual lobbies. The very games the media blamed for distracting the next generation was actually training them valuable skills in group collaboration. And now, these millions upon millions of gamers are part of the most cohesive problem-solving groups this world may have ever seen before. And I'm really talking about millions, and I think James has a good point to make here as far as how big this group really is.
Yeah, I mean, have you guys ever heard of something called the EWC?
Yeah, that's the Esports World Cup, right?
Yeah, it's this huge collaboration of gamers, of developers, people alike, where they all come together basically, and for a few weeks, any game that you would assume has an esport is probably on that list. They'd all get together and watch these teams play, basically professional teams of people actually making money for a living. It's crazy. The prize pool for the EWC was around 17 million last year, which, I mean, that's life-changing money, That's definitely not something to scoff at. So, yeah.
Right, you can just see that the level of organization around gaming is there. It's competing with the Super Bowl at this point, right? Now, let's move on to how do these video games even bring people together to solve problems? Because it's a big question that I'm sure everybody's wondering. Let's dive into the modern sandbox. We're talking about games like Minecraft, Roblox, and Civilization. And this is where players are given a shared goal to achieve. They have to achieve their goals through the language of play. This hasn't gone unnoticed. Today, we can see educators are actually using games in the classroom. In fact, the RAND Corporation now reports that in 2025, 74% of K through 8 teachers now use digital games in their classroom environment.
Yeah, can I comment?
Sure.
Yeah, I like how you mentioned Minecraft because I actually have a stat here, and as of October 2021, which is 5 years ago, seems like a lot, 35 million teachers across 115 countries use Minecraft education in their classrooms as a way to teach students collaboration, teamwork, coding, creativity, and that stat is not including homeschooled people, which is a huge population of the Minecraft education. People who are taught in home, they use that to communicate to the outside world, to learn that same collaboration skill that you use as in an in-person school. So I think.
Wow. Yeah, who would have even thought that, even homeschoolers are getting a kick out of using games as a teaching medium? Moving on, the most profound evolution isn't even what's happening on the screen. It's actually what's happening in the minds of the gamers themselves. In a world that's increasingly divided by borders, rhetoric, politics, gaming is actually becoming the de facto third place, a place where people can actually go to get away from some of these things. On any given night, a teenager in Los Angeles, a student in Medellin, and a coder in Seoul can be working together on a shared goal. irregardless of any kind of cultural divides or things that might come between them, they are together in the game environment. They are developing solution criteria, they are recognizing individual strengths and weaknesses, and they're experimenting with dynamic leadership structures. They are adapting on the fly. They're doing all these things with some of the most ragtag groups that you could ever possibly come up with, and they are doing it over and over again for hours on end. They don't see race, they don't see borders, they just see teammates. And at the heart of gaming is the universal language of collaboration. It's a bridge, it's uniting people across every single culture and creed in a way that traditional methods fail to do.
Can I actually comment on that?
Sure.
Interesting enough how you mentioned unity. I think it's now it's pretty well known that you can connect with anyone from across the world through gaming. And I used to have a friend, was my neighbor, recently had moved all the way to North Carolina, so literally across the country, that I've been able to still keep in touch with and still hang out with basically through gaming. Because of gaming, it's as if, he's still with me. Of course he's with me, but he's like actually there and we're actually hanging out, and it's nice, it's refreshing, and again, it's something that I feel like it's a necessity.
Yeah, I feel like everybody's got a story like that, right? Where you move away from somebody, but just because you see them online in game, you have the ability to just step through that door and just, it's like you still live right next door to them, right? So let's take a look into the future. As we look into the future, the question is no longer, is gaming a distraction for people, but what skills are people learning through games? The classroom of 2026 is shifting, and kids are learning more than ever through these video games. Dr. Jane McGonigal, a PhD researcher from UC Berkeley, knew this very early on. She gave a TED Talk all the way back in 2010, detailing how gaming can make a better world. She was ahead of her time. She said, when we're in game worlds, she believes that many of us become the best version of ourselves, the most likely to help at a moment's notice, the most likely to stick with a problem as long as it takes, to get up after failure and try again. And in real life, she says, we often face failure. We often don't feel that way. We feel overwhelmed. We feel anxious, maybe depressed, frustrated, or cynical. We never have those feelings when we're playing games. They just don't exist in games. And this positive, optimistic sentiment hasn't gone away. Even today, we are turning the corner on public perception of games. Laura Miele, an industry professional with electronic arts, gave a TED Talk 15 years later, 2025, last year, which showed how the world's perspective is shifting. Here's what she said. Even the World Health Organization, after years of skepticism about gaming, has come out to espouse the benefits of gaming. This is a massive turning point in public perception, she remarks. It has also spawned a lot of research around the benefits of gaming, including the power of play in 2023, where they surveyed 13,000 respondents in 12 countries to validate what many of us know, that gaming helps with critical skills, critical thinking, judgment, and collaboration. As we can see, the vibe is shifting, and personally, as a lifelong gamer, I can attest to this. Even if you make global friends here in the United States, it always comes with a footnote, right? That you're in the United States. You are interacting with somebody who is assimilating to a different culture. They tend to lose some of their cultural roots as they adapt to the United States culture. But when you interact with these multicultural people through video games, you are meeting people where they are, whether it's Venezuela, Malaysia, Germany. The list goes on. Not only that, through these semi-anonymized interactions, people are able to speak with an air of honesty. They get to say how they really feel about their life and their country and their nationality and their culture, you get a much, much deeper and richer cultural perspective when you interact with people through these games. If you ask me, honesty is the most important factor when working in a group. When people start to communicate in bad faith, problems are almost certain to follow. And I think gaming shows people that fact every single day.
Personally, think you hit the nail on the head. And there's nothing more I could say that would add to that. It would just be repetitive. Yeah, like gaming, it is important. It is important. Like it's evolved past entertainment.
When you mentioned that people don't see race, they don't see borders, they don't see, they see a teammate. And I just want to imagine 30, 40 years from now when people our age, gamers, are in charge of politics, right? No racism, no borders, no nothing. They're not, they have seen this. They have teamed up with people with other nations in their childhood. They know that these other people, basically their teammates, they're their teammates. That's what they are. They won't bring race or color or anything else when they're discussing politics, because in their past they have seen that these people who live in other countries are exactly like them. They play the same games. They do everything you do.
Right, the gamers have so much practice
Exactly.
on seeing these other factors, right?
Exactly.
All right, so I think with that, we were able to, kind of go very in depth as to the group dynamics as it pertains to the smallest group within gaming culture, which is the gamers. Taking a step back and analyzing how the group culture within the gaming, the game development committee, are affected by the culture, and finally, how the world really is reacting to this formation of gamers, which has never existed within the last century. It really just came into creation this last century. So it's been really great to go ahead and basically be guinea pigs in this world experiment, and to be able to kind of share how we feel about being a part of this new group that's been forming.
Thank you. Well, with that, we end our podcast.
Yay.